best of both worlds. Nobody talks about that.
Nobody talks about this shit.
Nobody talks about that project.
That swept that smooth under the rug.
Why? If you're a halfway intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some motherfuckers keep getting?
Right.
The entertainment world is no stranger to whispers, but the revelations spilling out now are more than whispers. They're a deafening roar. Jaguar Wright, the oft-controversial R&B singer who has made a career out of peeling back the glossy layers of the music industry, has come forward yet again, and this time, her target is none other than Beyoncé herself. Wright's allegations are incendiary, explosive, and, if even a fraction of them hold water, enough to send shockwaves through the very foundation of Beyoncé's carefully curated empire. What's more, these claims don't just brush against the surface of controversy. They dig deep into the underbelly of fame, exposing a labyrinth of hidden truths and unanswered questions.
Is it really a conspiracy if the same person keeps benefiting off the same kind of tragedy over and over?
Let's start at the top. Wright's claim that Beyoncé is not quite the woman the public has come to idolize. According to Wright, the global superstar's public image as a devoted wife, a proud mother, a feminist icon, and an LGBTQ ally is nothing more than an elaborate performance. A role Beyoncé has mastered with the precision of a Broadway star. But behind the curtain, Wright alleged something far darker is at play. She claims Beyoncé is part of a covert group in Hollywood, a cult, as she calls it, that operates in secrecy and wields influence behind the scenes. This isn't just about Hollywood's elite rubbing shoulders at exclusive parties. Wright paints a picture of manipulation, power plays, and alliances that extend far beyond professional camaraderie. And Beyoncé, according to Wright, is not just a participant. She's a central figure.
And we do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. It was being reported by TMZ and now Fox News. We are learning that Jay-Z is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. That is new in the Diddy lawsuit.
These allegations might seem wild, but Wright has been quick to connect the dots for anyone willing to listen. She points to Beyoncé's infamous Sasha Fierce persona, introduced during the early days of her solo career. As the first clue, it was in interviews around that time that Beyoncé herself admitted to feeling possessed when she performed as though a different entity entirely had taken over her body. For a public who saw this simply as an artist finding her confidence, Wright suggests it was something far more calculated, a way to normalize the idea that Beyoncé was channeling something beyond herself. And then there's the Renaissance album, marketed as a love letter to the LGBTQ community and a tribute to Beyoncé's late uncle. Fans celebrated it as a progressive celebratory step forward. But Wright's take, she claims it was an ode to this so-called secret group, a coded message for those in the know. And then there's the matter of Beyoncé's personal life. For years, rumors have swirled about the true nature of her relationship with Jay-Z, but Wright's allegations blow those whispers wide open. She asserts that their marriage is far from the love story. It's been sold as a union of equals, a power couple destined to dominate the entertainment world together. Instead, she suggests it's a calculated arrangement, one designed to bolster their public images and protect their respective brands. Wright's claims reach even further, alleging that Beyoncé's early career was steered in such a way because her family and management were eager to quash any potential scandals that could derail her rise to superstardom. And what kind of scandals are we talking about? Wright hints at relationships outside the public narrative, a Beyoncé who, in Wright's words, has always been drawn to women.
In a blistering statement, Jay-Z accuses Jane Doe's attorney of trying to blackmail him. He said further, quote, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one. Whomever would commit such a crime against a minor should be locked away. Would you not agree?"
This isn't the first time such rumors have surfaced either. Beyoncé's collaborations with female artists over the years have often been accompanied by whispers of more than just professional chemistry. Take her work with Emile on the early 2000s track, I Got That. Emile, who was once a rising star in her own right, notably disappeared from the spotlight almost as quickly as she arrived. According to some, the reason for Emile's abrupt exit was tied directly to Beyoncé. Rumors suggest that during their collaboration, Emile felt uncomfortable with the attention Beyoncé was giving her, and when she distanced herself, her career mysteriously withered. Coincidence? Wright doesn't think so. And then there's Lady Gaga, who once casually mentioned during an interview that she and Beyoncé both like women. While Gaga's offhand comment might have been brushed off as playful banter by some, others took it as a confirmation of long-standing suspicions. Even Beyoncé's lyrics have been scrutinized, with fans and critics alike pointing to moments in her discography that seem to hint at a deeper truth. Her Renaissance album, in particular, is packed with lyrics that some interpret as nods to her alleged attraction to women. Lines about indulgence, desire, and freedom take on a whole new meaning when viewed through Wright's lens.
Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement.
Yeah.
He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down, raped her.
Of course, this isn't just about lyrics or rumors. Wright also brings up Beyoncé's infamous private life. Those rare glimpses behind the scenes that seem to tell a different story than the one we see on stage. Take, for instance, the reports of Beyoncé frequenting exclusive clubs where the performances are anything but tame. Eyewitness accounts describe her as more than just a passive observer, cheering loudly and staying well past the time most would call it a night. And then there's her connection to certain producers, artists, and collaborators known for their ties to underground LGBTQ culture. These connections, Wright argues, are not accidental. They're an integral part of the real Beyoncé, the one the world isn't supposed to see. But perhaps the most damning part of Wright's narrative is the idea that Beyoncé's public support for the LGBTQ community is, at least in part, self-serving. Wright suggests that Beyoncé's activism, while undoubtedly impactful, also serves as a convenient shield against scrutiny. By aligning herself with a marginalized group, Beyoncé not only garners goodwill, but also diverts attention away from her own personal life. It's a strategy that's worked brilliantly. Until now.
I want to start with just the statement from Jay-Z, which is so forceful in its denial. I just read a teeny part of it, it's long, where he says that they should file a criminal complaint. Is that even possible at this point?
And yet, for all the scandalous claims Wright has made about Beyoncé's personal life, they pale in comparison to what she alleges about the singer's professional world. Wright hints at a level of control and manipulation that extends far beyond Beyoncé's immediate circle. The stories of former collaborators who've fallen out of favor, the ex-drummer who filed for a restraining order, the producers and writers who mysteriously vanished from her projects. Wright suggests these are not isolated incidents. They're part of a larger pattern, one designed to protect Beyoncé's carefully constructed image at any cost. The question is, how far does this pattern go? How deep does the control run? Wright's accusations don't just stop at Beyoncé. They extend to those around her, including Jay-Z and even her family. And if what Wright is saying is true, then the story of Beyoncé is far more complex and far darker than anyone could have imagined.
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system can only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to fact-finding.
And yet, as the veil continues to lift on Beyoncé's carefully preserved image, the story takes an even darker turn, not just into her world, but into the world of those who surround her. If you thought the whispers about secret lives and veiled truths were shocking, buckle up, because what's happening behind closed doors with Jay-Z and his circle of influence makes the first part of this story feel like a warm-up act. It's not just about relationships or power anymore. It's about survival in an industry that seems to reward those who operate in the shadows. Let's talk about Jay-Z, who, for decades, has presented himself as the blueprint of self-made success. He's the mogul who rose from the streets of Brooklyn to the Billionaires Club, the man behind Roc Nation, Tidal, and countless other ventures. But what if his empire wasn't built solely on ambition and talent? What if, beneath the surface, there's a network of manipulation, secrecy, and something much, much darker? For years, there have been murmurs, stories that don't make the headlines but live in the back alleys of the entertainment world, stories of deals made off the record, of alliances forged in desperation, and of people who vanished from Jay's orbit after daring to step out of line.
We intend to name people in these lawsuits. We're not going to do it in interviews. We're not going to do it, without doing our due diligence, because obviously, these types of allegations are...
Take his relationship with Diddy, for example. On the surface, it's all smiles and champagne toasts. Two of hip-hop's biggest moguls constantly competing but always maintaining a veneer of mutual respect. But dig deeper, and the cracks start to show. Their rivalry has always been laced with tension, but now, with Diddy's recent legal troubles, the dynamics have shifted into something far more sinister. Diddy's arrest on charges that include racketeering and exploitation has sent shockwaves through the industry. And while his team scrambles to do damage control, one question looms large. What does Jay-Z know, and how far does his connection to Diddy's alleged activities really go? What's particularly unsettling is how many of Diddy's alleged activities seem to overlap with the people and places Jay-Z has frequented throughout his career. Industry insiders have quietly pointed out that some of the venues named in Diddy's ongoing legal battles were also hotspots, where Jay was known to host private events. These weren't just casual gatherings either. These were invite-only affairs where the guest lists were more tightly controlled than a government vault, and cameras were strictly prohibited. The question is, why? What was happening at these events that required such secrecy? And more importantly, how much of it was orchestrated by Diddy and how much was Jay's doing? While no concrete evidence has emerged tying Jay-Z directly to anything criminal, the proximity alone is enough to raise eyebrows and whispers.
Okay, so last hour when we left off, you had asked me, did Tony Busby respond to Jay-Z?
Yes.
And he did. So he responded to...
And then there's the issue of Brendan Paul, the associate who was arrested around the same time as Diddy's properties were raided earlier this year. Paul, who allegedly worked closely with both Diddy and Jay-Z's circles, has been described by some as a fixer. Someone tasked with handling more unsavory aspects of their operations. Legal documents suggest that Paul's role extended far beyond administrative tasks. He was reportedly involved in coordinating certain shipments and ensuring that certain deliveries made it to the right people at the right time. While Jay-Z's name hasn't appeared in any official filings connected to Paul's arrest, those close to the case have hinted that investigators are keeping a watchful eye on the overlap between Paul's dealings and Jay's network. If that connection is proven, it could blow the lid off of Jay's entire operation.
Busby said because he's alleging that Jay-Z's team and Jay-Z had private investigators and a bunch of people reaching out to former employees of the firm.
But perhaps the most damning piece of the puzzle lies with the silence of those who once worked alongside Jay-Z and Diddy. Former staff members have described a culture of fear, where speaking out wasn't just discouraged, it was considered career suicide. Several of these individuals have since left the entertainment industry altogether, citing burnout and disillusionment. However, a few have recently started to hint at the darker truths they witnessed during their time in the inner circles of these two moguls. One former employee who asked to remain anonymous claimed that there were entire teams dedicated to cleaning up messes. Not just the PR kind, but actual, tangible issues that could have had devastating consequences if left unresolved. The lengths these teams allegedly went to in order to protect their bosses are almost too extreme to believe. But in an industry where image is everything, nothing seems entirely off the table.
And Busby is saying, I did that not because we want to shake you down, but because you tried to scare my client, so she wants to come out swinging too. She's not backing down.
It's no secret that Jay and Diddy have operated in the same circles for decades. They've attended the same exclusive events, shared the same VIP rooms, and, according to some insiders, even collaborated on ventures that never saw the light of day. But with Diddy's empire now under the microscope, the spotlight is starting to shift toward Jay-Z. After all, how does someone maintain such a spotless public image while navigating the same murky waters as someone like Diddy? Could it really be that Jay has kept his hands entirely clean? Or is there something or someone shielding him from scrutiny?
And that's not the first time we've seen this tactic, and the last time it actually worked.
And let's not forget the allegations that are starting to bubble up around Jay himself. One former associate described him as a master of the long game, someone who knows how to play the industry's chessboard better than anyone else. But that level of control doesn't come without its costs or its casualties. There are whispers of artists who signed with Roc Nation only to find themselves sidelined, their careers mysteriously stalling after disagreements with Jay. And then there's the question of his relationship with Beyoncé. Was their union really the fairy tale it was sold as? Or was it a calculated move to consolidate power and control? The cracks in their relationship have been visible for years, no matter how much they've tried to plaster over them. Beyoncé's Lemonade album was a public airing of grievances that most couples would never dream of making public, yet Jay-Z's response was measured, almost clinical. His 444 album was less an apology and more a calculated attempt to reclaim the narrative, to present himself as the flawed but repentant husband. But insiders have suggested that this was just another performance, a way to keep the brand intact while the real story remained hidden.
And he's gone on to do incredible things. But he has a very specific style. And there's a lot of people who don't like that style. And Judge Torres is one of them. He's now twice kind of taken the reins and tried to take control of the narrative of cases by putting on sort of these preemptive press conferences. He did it with Mayor Adams, and he did it now with Jay-Z, where he goes to the press and essentially puts on a PowerPoint.
And then there's the matter of his past relationships, which have come under renewed scrutiny in the wake of Diddy's arrest. Jay-Z's former ties to individuals who are now implicated in Diddy's alleged activities have raised more than a few eyebrows. One name that keeps coming up is Dam Dash, Jay's former business partner at Rockefeller Records. Their fallout was one of the messiest in hip-hop history, but what's less well known are the accusations Dame has made about Jay over the years. According to Dame, Jay has a history of prioritizing his own interests at the expense of those around him. In one particularly explosive interview, Dame claimed that Jay's actions were driven by a desire for control over his career, control over his image, and, most disturbingly, control over the people in his life.
It's really Alex Spiro doing the exact opposite thing to help his client, but the judge really didn't like it. And so all of that is to say that this ruling to me is specifically directed at Alex Spiro, saying, I don't like what you're doing. I don't like all the motions you're filing. I don't like how you're going about handling this case. And if you continue to do it, you're not the only one who's got some tricks up their sleeve. I can also do things to make this process more difficult.
It's a theme that seems to run through everything Jay-Z touches. Whether it's his business dealings, his personal relationships, or his public persona, the common thread is control. And while that's not unusual in an industry as cutthroat as entertainment, the lengths to which Jay allegedly goes to maintain that control are what set him apart. From the artists who've accused him of sidelining their careers to the former associates who claim they were pushed out of the industry altogether, the stories paint a picture of someone who will stop at nothing to protect his empire.
Is balancing the public's need for information and the defense's need for information so they can prepare for trial versus the effect that this will have on the alleged victim and her psyche. And obviously the world knows that as soon as her name is revealed, everyone is going to come down on her, from the media to her, to his attorneys, to the social media. You're going to get it from all sides.
But perhaps the most chilling aspect of all this is the way Jay-Z has managed to stay above the fray. While Diddy's legal troubles have made headlines, Jay has remained conspicuously silent. Some have interpreted this as a sign of guilt, a calculated attempt to distance himself from the unfolding scandal. Others see it as a sign of power, a reminder that Jay operates on a different level entirely. After all, this is a man who has built his career on the notion that he's untouchable, that he's smarter, savvier, and more strategic than anyone else in the game. Yet, for all his brilliance, there's a growing sense that the walls might finally be closing in. The entertainment industry is a small world, and secrets have a way of coming to light when you least expect them. With Diddy's arrest shining a spotlight on the darker side of hip-hop's elite, it's only a matter of time before the questions start to shift toward Jay-Z, and when they do, will his carefully constructed empire be able to withstand the scrutiny?
Jay-Z is speaking out this morning after the civil suit accusing him and Sean Diddy Combs of rape was dropped. NBC's Chloe Malas is here with more.
So what do you think? Are we looking at a case of guilt by association, or is there more to Jay-Z's story than meets the eye? And how does Beyoncé fit into all of this? Is she a willing participant or just another pawn in a much larger game? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and trust us, this is just the beginning. There's a lot more to uncover, so stay tuned.